Billiken fans, welcome back. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. It's the Midtown Madness Podcast. Before we get going, thank you so much for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe buttons, especially if this is your first time checking out one of our shows. It's season 4. Once again, the Midtown Madness is brought to you by Two Men in a Garden. Pete, I consume a lot of internet content, and some of the ridiculous sponsorships out there just blow my mind. It's always a useless subscription service or a loot box of some kind. And there's just no need for any of those things. They're not going to save you money. We can't promise that, but what we can promise you is Two Men in a Garden salsa is going to be awesome. It's local. It tastes amazing. They've got all the flavors to suit your individual salsa preferences. You can pick up their many products at any local grocery store or online at twomeninAgarden.com, which, if you're particular about your salsa, that's where you want to go first. You can follow them on social media as well. They're at Two Men Salsa on Instagram and Twitter. Pete, I got to thinking today, and I decided that I'm extremely jealous of Ohio State right now. And it's complicated though.
Yeah, I want to hear you talk through this. I mean, the obvious reason is just because they're without their head coach, right?
Yeah, I mean they ripped the Band-Aid off, and that's, that in itself is great for the fans just because they know change is coming. But I just want they get to enjoy a win over the number 15 team in the nation, right? Like that's, or yeah, what was, isn't that what they did? They beat the 15 team in the number 15. Like they can enjoy. Okay, it doesn't matter who they beat. The fact is that Ohio State fans can now enjoy wins without worrying if like the athletic department is going to be swayed by a couple of fun games and wins, as if there's progress being made.
Right. I got you. I see what you mean. I'm trying to pull up their schedule here to see if
They
you
just
were right
they
about that.
did beat a ranked opponent.
Well, they beat number 2 Purdue, but that was last week, right?
Oh, you're right.
And then they just beat Michigan State today.
Okay.
As we record this, they beat Michigan State by 3 at Michigan State. So even though they had a loss in between those, I mean, that's 2 out of 3 really good results for
Yeah.
a team that had been sputtering all season.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much that I think anything can be salvaged from this season, because I don't think it can, but because I think the issues with Billiken basketball run a lot deeper than just X's and O's. It's roster building that's holding this team back quite a bit. And not saying they're bad, like there's just not that guy that we need to fill out this roster. It's not, I mean, they're one of the guys on this roster, not named Brad is aware because he's old, could be that guy. Could turn into that guy, but we don't have him right now, which is a rim protector, with our guards being subpar on the dribble drive. And we're going to get into it in the George Washington game.
Right.
But first up, we got to talk about this Kilcoyne interview, because wouldn't you know it, something gets released right after we record.
Yeah, it's that way every time, isn't it? And we even teased it on the last show, right?
We knew it was coming.
If people remember, we both kind of gave our version of what might be said in the interview. But what actually was said, Zach, and I guess we can go through and try and hold ourselves accountable too afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as much as we were just trying to be funny, we also thought we knew a little bit. We've heard a little bit of that Travis Ford talk after games, so we had an idea. First quote, no one's as unhappy about this as I am and our players. We don't expect people to be happy. We expect to have criticism. When you play at Kentucky, you hear it all, and you need to have thick skin. Saying that after what was allegedly reported as happening in Philadelphia is very humorous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is the sort of interaction with a fan on the way out of the game there.
Yeah. Whatever that was. I mean, I just don't know how you can even respond. You're the dude who's in the position as a head coach. Like, yeah. Like what was the Ed Cooley's response? I'm rich as shit.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
basically.
that you should have that thought in your mind, not necessarily say that thought,
Right,
but like that should be your thought, and then you just keep walking.
right.
Um, he said, I take full responsibility on everything. We got to get better. I'm more obsessed now than ever to get this right. This is the most difficult year I've had as a coach in my 27 years as a head coach by far. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't really have any issue with that one. He says he's more obsessed with than ever in terms of getting that right, getting things right. I don't know if I quite believe that part of it.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't really know what that means because certainly we're not seeing the manifestation of that on the court.
Yeah. And I don't know, is he saying that in the sense of this year? Or is he saying that in the sense of like on a grander scale, like roster building? Because if he takes full responsibility and he's got to get better, and he's more obsessed to get this right now, I literally don't think, and we can, and like I said with the Holtman situation at Ohio State, I said to you before going on air, I think is that uh, I, with Ohio State there was probably enough talent to be better.
Hmm.
Um, you could probably do some different things with that talent, and get more out of it. Here, I I don't think we are missing talent, so to speak, more as we are missing. Uh, I think on the defensive end, a lot of it is just straight up that we don't have a rim protector, like I said in the opening. So I don't know what you can fix other than to come up with a way that to stop I mean, the pack line defense is really what I thought about the other day. Like watching that game and watching people just drive on us is the pack line. But like, I don't know if a new perspective on defense would help with this team.
Yeah, I mean, like, I took it to mean this season, like riding the ship this season and
Yeah.
building momentum for next season is kind of the way I interpreted that. But you're right. I don't know. I mean, it's so late in the year now, right? I mean, we've got just a few regular season games left, so there's just not enough time to implement something new, right? I
Well,
mean,
I mean, we had the article that came out from Stu about how they were shortening practices to 60 minutes.
mhm.
They're just gonna go hard for 60 minutes and then call it a day. And so, I mean, I guess you change that now. I don't.
I actually don't think that's a bad idea at all.
No, it's a great idea. You should have done it. You should like that's how it should have been at the beginning of the season. Like that,
Yeah.
it should have always been like I just my brain always goes to, and of course I'm wearing the shirt, to training. Like
Mhm.
when you're getting ready for a race, you bring down the volume and you raise the intensity so that you're fresh for the game. Like there's no reason to practice to do physically demanding basketball work more than 60 minutes a day
Mhm.
in season. There's no reason for it. So like
Yeah,
I don't know
like
what they're doing for 2 hours, unless an hour that's video. Then I can understand that.
I try and think back to when I was there, and Romar had a habit of letting practices go on too long and losing track of time, but it wasn't like full tilt the entire time. Whereas Brad tended to have shorter practices that were like timed out a lot more to the minute, right? He would allow for some wiggle room in there, but he had a really, it was a crisp schedule for practice. And I don't think our teams necessarily got fatigued. I think he was always very conscious of having fresh, healthy legs because he was such a defensive minded coach,
Yeah.
right? And he wanted his defenders out there and feeling good for 40 minutes of a game. And I've heard, varying coaches approach this varying ways, right? I don't know how long Majerus's practices were, but he was obviously a practice coach. That's what he lived for. I had always heard from our coaches at the time, they hated Tom Crean. He was at Marquette. They went on that Final Four run, but every year after that Final Four run, what I had heard about Crean was that he overworks them. Like he practices up until the allowable minutes, from the NCAA. And so his teams always start like 12-1 and then would kind of tail off after the season because he just exhausts them. And so there's definitely a balance to strike, right? Well, like you want to be
Yeah.
able to scout and implement everything and keep them sharp, on the things that they need to be sharp on. But at the same time, you have to be conscious of the fact that this season is a marathon,
Yeah.
and you have to be very careful with fatigue and injuries.
And I think it even goes beyond physical fatigue, right? I mean,
Mhm.
there are times when I realized that I was like, you burn out. And I mean, that's the quickest way to lose your team,
Right.
whether it be physical or mental burnout, because actually mental burnout's probably worse than how quickly you lose your team. Because uh, uh, if you're keeping them around the gym for 2 hours to keep working over the same damn thing, I T I I mean, you get tired, like, you're tired of it. Like, you're
Yeah.
tired of playing basketball. The idea of doing anything, whether it be basketball, soccer, running, cycling, doesn't like, you get tired of it.
Yeah.
So I again, he's switching to the 60-minute practice is a great move. I don't it should have never had to be a move, in my opinion. More than 60 minutes a day of of training is or physical, that's nuts. Um, Now mental preparation, I all for it. 2 hour video, fine. But you don't, yeah. We knew it was the Pete. Pete, this is where we get it. This is, I love to call out, you know, uh discrepancies. I may be the worst at like finer details, but I can spot when the finer details are way off.
Hmm.
This is one of those moments. We knew it was a rebuilding year, and then you're building through a time of trying to get a grasp on the transfer portal and NIL. It's all kind of new to everybody. I have a much better grasp on those things, especially over the past month as we dig into it and get a better understanding. What were you doing, Travis, for 2 years?
Day one, when the NIL stuff comes down, you have to be in front of it. You have to
Mm,
absolutely be in front of it. Like when the new updated NCAA rule books come in every year, you got to know, like, what are the sections, what's changed, you have to know. And then once the NIL stuff started happening, even more so than ever before, you have to be in front of it. You have to know how it works. You have to know what the implications are. You have to know what the marketplace is like. You have to be out in front of it. And this, just as much as we've always suspected, just makes it clear that SLU has been late to the party.
yeah.
They haven't figured it out. It doesn't mean they're not doing it. We know they're doing it, but just to say you're getting a better grasp in the past month is shocking.
What do you wait? You're looking in NIL in the middle of the season?
But also, like, it's one thing to say, well, there have been a couple things that have changed in the past month, and we've had
Yeah.
to evolve our understanding. But that's not really what he's saying here. And that's what's crazy to me, is because I can't imagine, like, knowing that this is where the competitive landscape is going. That's what you have to do in order to compete. Why
Mhm.
are you so far behind the eight ball on this? Like, if you're a competitive person, look at the landscape and figure out what you have to do to compete.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't. I mean, we were taught like, how long have we been talking about the NIL?
I don't even know. I mean, it's one of those things that feels like
Well, so it was Yuri Kyle.
we've
I think
talked about a ton, but at the same time, I don't have a really good sense of, like, what was the launch date of it. Yeah, I mean, the
I think that
Collins thing was the big.
that was the first one where you're like, oh shit, this is gonna play a big role in things.
Right.
Um, and at that point, like, how, how did you not, as a coach, where it's, I mean, as the story goes, basically somebody stepped up, uh, in the SLU booster community and kept Yuri Collins on that team. That's as the story goes. Um, but how do you, as a head coach, nearly lose your star point guard and your season to an clearly an NIL situation, and
Mhm.
then not say, okay, we need to really lock down on this because we are in grave danger of losing all the players that we've brought in.
Even if you wanted to be one of those schools that just said, that's not who we are, that's not what we do, we're going to do our own thing, that had to be a bucket of ice water in your face, right? Like that whole situation, you're right, it had to wake you up, it had to. um I just don't get it, man. I just, I don't know why they haven't been looking for a competitive edge there all along, or a
Um,
better understanding, whatever you want to call it.
yeah, this one's kind of another head scratcher. Um, we were still trying to put a roster together in August, which we think set us back a lot in the summertime in terms of getting better. Um, I don't know what that means, to be honest, because like everybody can get better individually. I mean, I don't know why you're putting together a roster in August. That's a whole other can of worms. If we can get into it.
Well, see the previous entry.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Um,
they clearly were losing in the
yes.
recruiting world.
Eh,
They weren't getting their first or second or third choices. Things were taking a longer time
they
than they
almost
should
signed
have.
Malcolm Dandridge,
That
who,
thing went on for months.
and then who is now academically the eligibility is in question for Malcolm
Right. It
Dandridge.
sounds like there was a cheating scandal or something.
Can you imagine
Mhm. At Memphis.
Malcolm Dandridge comes to St. Louis University? So let's say Ezewiro doesn't come then. You have the eligibility issues with Bruce, Abu Magasa, Steph Van Bussel, and then the middle of February, you lose your center. Like, I don't, is that worse than not having the center at the start because he wasn't he wasn't supposed to be eligible at all? I don't, that's an insane run of like questionable eligibility recruitment.
Well, the words being tied to this are academic fraud. So it seems like there was some kind of cheating or something, which I guess you got to do at Memphis because it has such a reputation as an academically rigorous institution. So yeah, hard to imagine he would need to cheat at SLU, right? I mean, we're no Memphis academically
No, we're
speaking.
not. No, we're we are the we are the UT Martin of the west of the Mississippi.
I mean, it's
Uh,
just incredible.
um, let's see. Uh, yeah, I don't like this roster. They're still not the roster's still not put together. Uh, these are all excuses, and fans don't want to hear excuses. I get that, but it's reality, and we have a plan going forward. In no question. Now,
Yeah,
this is this, but oh, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. I want to set it up, and I wanted to know, like, it's this is another one where you wonder a little bit what he's talking about, like what the
yes.
time frame is.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because when I see a plan, I think, well, okay, the only option this year is to win in Brooklyn 5 games in 5 days because we're going to be at bottom 4 seed, right? Barring that less than 1% chance outcome, he's talking about next season. And when you look at next season, Hargrove and Meadows are gone out of eligibility. Jimerson could come back for what would be his sixth season. We don't know yet, which I know is crazy. And then you've got your other potential returners, the international guys, the younger guys, Sincere Parker. what would be your returning roster? You have one player signed, incoming player, and the recruiting pipeline is just not really there. It's just not there. And
And by that, you mean we have how many offers officially out for players that would be eligible next season?
fewer than ever than since I've been tracking. I've been tracking this for like 11 years since Cruise, and this is fewer at this point in time than ever before. They've been not even a trickle of offers. We've got a few JUCO offers in the past few months, and that's it. It's been dead silent on the recruiting trail. So
And how many guys over 6'10", 6'9", over 6'9"? How many over 6'9"?
Zero. Yeah, like
And Pete, what are we missing?
Yeah, no, I know. It's undersized guards who are getting these offers. But so then let's just take him at his face value. He's got a plan, right? I think we would all be naive to think that in this age we're going to get all of these players back, because international players can go in a heartbeat and they're not as tied to the American academic model and things like that. And then you've got your other guys, younger players who might return, but you've got to assume, and I'm not going to like speculate on rumors or anything like that, but you've got to assume that of that core of young players, some of them are just not going to want to come back to what was a disaster of a season.
Yes.
This was a disaster of a season.
Regardless of rumor, when you have a season this bad, people leave.
Yes. So you're not going to have this whole set of returning players, 8 or 9 guys or whatever, who say, yeah, let's run it back. Right. And if you did keep them all, if you did keep all of those guys, all of the international players, all of the non-international players who are still eligible, your one incoming player, you only have a couple roster spots to give. Is that the core you want to keep? You know what I mean? So like, then is the plan, we're just going to like redo the roster. We're going to boot all these guys out, bring a bunch of new guys in.
With what offers?
Exactly. Because then I return to recruiting and go, well, you've offered a few JUCO players, and in most cases, we're the strongest offer. You know, like some of these other guys have offers from like Oakland and Austin PE and Eastern Washington, and like no disrespect to any other schools, but it's just a matter of fact that the A10 is at a stronger level than these guys' other offers. And so then we're going to go to we're going to have to go to the transfer portal, and that's always a possibility. Guys that you haven't offered now who are going to be there in March to May, who you can bring in. But we already know from our conversations about NIL, from other conversations that Troy and other people have had publicly about NIL, the transfer market's expensive. To do well in the transfer market, you have to spend money. And so then you go back to, how much money do we have to spend on a coach who's on the hot seat? You know, or for a coach who's on the hot seat. So like, no matter how you try and work out where the plan would be coming from, it just doesn't work out. You bring everybody back, you've got more or less the same team. You don't have a whole lot of roster spots to give, but you don't have anything in the recruiting pipeline. And then if you try and get it done in the portal, we're not 1 or 2 or even 3 players away from this being a good team.
We're one player away from beating George Washington by 10.
Yeah,
we are one big man away from beating George Washington by 10. That is what earlier in this episode, I said that we need one guy to make this team work. And I meant that in the sense of just run. Like a Fiat. Fix it again, Tony. But yeah, but to get to where we need to be, we need at least 2, 3, 4 guys.
Yeah, I mean, we're just, it's not close. So I would be really curious to see what that plan looks like and how realistic they think it is. But you know,
I was shocked that he didn't get into it point by bullet by bullet.
We want specifics
with dots. What else did he say? It kind of snowballs sometimes when you have years like this and injuries. The ball doesn't bounce your way. Um, Injuries. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some bad luck this season, but we've had a fully healthy roster that's given up 90 plus points at times. So it's, the core problems are still there regardless of that.
I thought the funniest part of this whole thing was that he talked about Patino who reached out.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's funny that the guy who just burned his whole roster in a
Yeah.
post game. By the way, is Ford just being played by Patino at this point? Like Patino is like he knows how to do this, and Ford just does not. And Patino is like burning his whole roster down, and then goes ahead and rattles off like 2 wins in a row or whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Like Ford's trying to do a Patino, but he just cannot do it the same.
I have to imagine that that phone call was just the two of them going back and forth, trading stories about how upset they are at their current rosters and how this guy's not getting it done and how these kids have no heart and how they you like this like I'm sure it was just
It's not the
back
same
and
on those
forth.
Kentucky teams.
Right. Like I'm
They
sure it
just
was
they just don't look the same, Peter.
it was
Listen,
it had to be a lot about like toughness and these kids don't have it anymore and you got to pay them and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure that's what it was, but I will say this about Patino. If you remember the game where we won on that buzzer beater,
the
we
Iona.
were we were no. I'm talking
Oh,
about SLU back in
Louisville.
2000 when Patino was at Louisville.
Yes.
And we beat them. They were number 2 in the country. We were coming off a 7-loss streak. It was Soderberg's first year as my sophomore year, and we beat them at the buzzer.
Yep.
Um, I went so being a manager, like the way that the locker room was lined up is the back door of our locker room lined up with the only door of the visitors locker room, and it was across a hallway. It was actually the hallway in between them is where the Blues would normally come out. Uh, I believe if I have my hallways right, it's where the Blues would normally come out of their tunnel. There's doors on the left and right, and those are like visitor locker rooms for basketball. But anyway, I open the door, and Patino is standing at the door, and as his players are walking out one by one, right? Because I'm like just going over there to get the towels and other equipment we let them borrow. And one by one, the players are walking out with their heads down, and Patino's standing there with his arms folded, just ruthlessly laying into these guys one by one. Every other word starts with F. I will not share it all
Friend.
for
Friend.
our family friendly audience here. Every single word out of his I mean, it was the
Family.
most profane tirade I've ever heard. One by one, you guys are losers. You guys have no heart. You guys are soft. You guys are weak. You're terrible. You're overrated. None of you can score. None of you can defend. Just ripping. This was the number 2 team in the country. Every single guy walking out of there got like the worst insults I've ever heard a coach give to players one by one on the way out the door. He was just standing there giving it to them. So I like after taking that in for probably a few seconds too long, I shut the door, gave those guys a few minutes, and then I went back into that locker room and to get our stuff, and they had destroyed it. Like they had knocked like locker doors off. They had punched out ceiling tiles. They had like broken a bunch of things in there. And we wound up having to send Louisville a bill for like thousands of dollars for the damage that they had done to what is now Enterprise Center, the
Oh,
locker room.
an invoice.
Yes, we had to invoice them, and they reimbursed us, and then we had to pay the pay the well, I guess Scott Savis Center at the time it was back for that. But yeah, so ripping on your players publicly might be something new for Patino, but like I've seen the dude with my own eyes and ears. I've seen him and heard him do it to his players, to their faces, the most ruthless stuff I've ever heard from a head basketball coach. So like I assure you what he's just putting out there for us to hear right now is nothing new. It's nothing he hasn't said to them privately.
Incredible.
Yeah.
But that is it. What a what an interesting, like, I love that Travis Ford like mentions Patino by name. At the same time, Patino is just ruthlessly
Yep.
ripping his players in the media.
Yeah.
On being judged on his whole career at SLU versus just this year, we've won a lot of games. Do we want to win even more? Absolutely. Every A10 team wants that. It's been a struggle the past 7 to 10 years to get multiple teams in the A10 or in the A10 teams in the tournament. We have a better understanding of how to handle this portal, NIL things, and things we've implemented recruiting wise. And I think we're heading in the right direction.
Mhm.
Shut the front door.
So I mean, really, he's saying here, judge me on my whole body of work. We've won a lot of games. It could have been better. We've had some bad luck, but just wait because we're gonna win some more games, right? And I just, yeah,
Is he?
this is
He's
it's
literally
year
blaming
8.
the Atlantic 10.
I mean, I guess so. I guess so. I mean, every A10 team wants to do that. It's been a struggle the past 10 years.
10
Um,
years. I don't know if it's
7 to
it
10 years.
what is it? The last time we made the tournament was the last multi-bid A10.
No, last year I think was
Did
the
we get
first.
to?
We've gotten just I think just 2 most years, but I think last year was the first 1 bid in a really really long time.
Yeah. I mean this is just I don't know what, like, again, he's talking about they have a better understanding on how to handle this portal NIL thing. Like, the portal's been here for, you literally built an Atlantic 10 championship team off the portal.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, yeah. By this point, again, by this point, the head coach of a college basketball program in D1 should not be complaining about the portal, should not be complaining about the NIL. If you cannot handle it, Division 1 is not for you. There are Division 2 and 3 and NAIA jobs that would love to have you.
Yes.
Division 1 is not for you.
If he's aware of the outside noise and whether he thinks he'll be fired, I'm aware it's there. It should be there. We're having a tough year. I wouldn't be happy as a fan, and I'm not happy as the head coach. Wants to win for this fan. He wants to win for this fan base, get this corrected for them. Still gets a lot of emails of support for people behind him. I got to imagine it's not from Billiken fans.
I think that's the back home crew. I think
Yes,
that, yeah,
that's
those are
the
the kids.
Sean McDonald's, the Barry Willifords or whatever next name.
Yes, all the burner accounts that have been sending us messages
Should we
constantly.
should we predict the next burner account name?
Go for
Let's
it.
let's try let's do a new segment
I
presented
have
by 2 Men in the Garden. Guess the new burner name. I'm gonna
I,
go
I,
with I'm gonna go with Martin Granderson.
but then
Martin Granderson.
also like 5 or 6 numbers
Yes, of
behind it.
course. No, 6792453.
Yes.
Yes, of course. This one's interesting. He got choked up here. I don't worry about the other stuff. I really don't. I absolutely love St. Louis. Living here over the past 8 years, I've had some of the most rewarding times of my life, but also some of the most difficult times of my life here. This is a special place. I love it here. I want to get the season turned around now and look forward to being unbelievable next year because of the fan base, for what this city has meant to me and my family, because we've experienced a lot here and people have been good to us, not just during the good, but the difficult times. I have true love for St. Louis and St. Louis University. And when you're a coach who's moved around, you have certain things you like about certain places. We've been through a lot here. This is where my kids would tell you would be home for them. I don't know if I believe that, but that last
I
part, I don't know. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, I mean, I can't speculate as to that, but I mean, I guess I could see it because they all basically went to, middle school and high school
yeah.
here and stuff like
No, I
that.
mean, look, like, again, you love this city, great. Be an announcer and have your home base here.
Yeah, I
But
just
coach
like
at Lindenwood.
this
Uh,
is one of those things where you really like he did get a little choked up here, and he's referring to
right.
Ford Stewin, and this is where the broadcast, if you watch the video of this, this is where they cut to a scene of Ford Stewin's memorial service that was held in Chaffetz Pavilion, like during this part of it,
Yeah.
which I know people had some reactions to that.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know, man. That stuff, it still bothers me. And like it's it's tough because yeah, that happened. That's real. That's not bullshit. It's I don't know if calling it out by like punching us in the nose with it or the viewer, I guess. And again, that's not on Travis Ford.
Mhm.
Like Travis Ford didn't edit the piece. So I have nothing to say to Travis Ford on that. I just think it's a choice, and
Yeah.
it's putting. I don't know. I don't. I don't love that choice. But again, Travis Ford didn't edit it. I want to be clear on that one.
Hmm.
That we're not
Yeah.
blaming him for that. For using. Well, never mind.
Right. Right.
Right. Yeah, I want to get this thing turned around, and we have a plan in place. We have a plan in place that's already in action to get this thing turned around. Is that a what's like race car? What's that called? The word race car, what is it? It's spelled the same backwards as forwards. That
Oh,
sentence,
anagram.
yeah, that sentence is an anagram, but like with words.
Yeah.
It's
Anagram. Is that right?
he's
Yes.
literally
No. No. Anagram is just
is it
rearranging.
onomatopoeia?
No, that's a word that is spelled like it sounds.
Okay. Anyway,
Uh,
but like race
I'll
car
figure it
spelled,
out.
it's spelled the same backwards. This sentence is literally he says, I have a
Palindromes.
yes,
Palindrome.
that sentence like a
Yeah.
palindrome.
Yeah.
He's literally am I making sense?
Yeah. I know what you're
I
saying.
want to get this thing turned around. We have a plan in place. Now we have a plan in place again that's already in action to get this thing turned around.
Right. Yeah.
What
So
what an incredible phrase.
I mean, we've already talked about the
Oh,
feasibility of a plan. I
oh,
mean,
but
the
no.
the
Go ahead. Sorry.
the only possible plan based on what we said the last time, a few minutes ago when we talked about this, the only possible plan is if he said, we've got $4 million committed to next season. I'm going to go get the top 5 guys to enter the portal,
Yes.
and that's going to be our starting lineup next year. We're going to get the
Yes.
best big. We're going to get the best point guard. We're going to get the best shooter. We're going to get the best 5 guys in the portal.
I'm
Unless,
donating all my salary.
unless that's the plan, unless he thinks he's going to beat Arizona and UNC and every other school for the top players in the portal, then there just is no, to me, there is no feasible way that there is a plan that could turn it around next year. Um, so yeah, that's
Yeah.
my.
And I think the point is like you look at one of the tweets that our friends over at West Pine Bills put out, and you've got every year that Travis Ford has been here, I think except for the first one, he has underperformed Jesus. Verse the preseason ranking or preseason
Oh
poll
yeah,
in the conference. Like,
yeah.
so what? We won the A10 in the championship when we were picked to win it, and we
Hmm.
finished sixth. We were picked to finish sixth, and we finished 15th. Even if it's $4 million roster, like, what are we supposed to expect from that besides a second place finish and maybe make the tournament as an at large?
Yeah, I mean, so that's the thing, right? It is, I think I put this on Billikens.com somewhere, is no matter what roster it is, we're ultimately going to be disappointed. Because if you go, this is a roster that could win in any league in the country, yeah, we'll find a way to finish second. This is a roster that should be a top 5 team in the country. We're going to be a top 40 team. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
we're just going to underperform. But so let's add some of that perspective. West Pine Bills did a lot of this legwork for us, but
as they do.
as you were saying, SLU has finished worse than predicted in the A10 preseason poll. 5 out of 8 years under Ford, including each of the past 4 seasons. Um, the highest finish that they've achieved under Ford is 4th place. They were in a 3-way tie for 2nd place one time, but they got the 4 seed based on tiebreakers. So it's with that caveat, because we've had people come at us saying, no, they finished second. It's like in a 3-way tie, and they got the 4 seed out of that. So big asterisk there. Um, the average finish of his teams is 6.875, so basically 7th place. in the conference. In the past 10 years, SLU has made the tournament twice. This will be one as of next season, right? Because that last appearance under Cruz will fall off. So VCU has made it 7 times in the past 10 years, Dayton 5 times. Um, Heading into this week, SLU's winning percentage this season equaled the winning percentage in Ford's first season, which was 36%. I think, we went 500 this week, so we're at 37% on the year now. So basically the same thing. I mean, really, Zach, with all of these things, there's many, many more ways to break this down, but SLU's paying Ford not just the highest salary in the A10 currently, but the highest salary in the history of the league, right? As West Pine Bills pointed out on that post game spaces very recently, the
Oh, that was a
highest
fun one.
salary in the history of the league. So that's got to put into perspective what we're accomplishing here. It's just it was very little for the amount that we're spending.
Yeah. How did we do, I guess, on our guesses, our role play?
I don't think I did all that well. I think I rehashed a lot of the things that he said on like the coach's show or in like kind of his usual local media hits that are pretty softball pieces. So I do think I kind of missed the mark because I think he made fewer excuses than usual. And his tone, Zach, actually reminded me a lot more of his tone when he was addressing that social media blow up earlier this season. He's still not being very specific with things, but he's not giving me a whole lot of faith in whatever his plan is. But I think there's more like kind of self-awareness and accountability than we normally hear in those other media spots. So did I miss it? I would say yeah, I kind of missed it a little bit. I don't know if you feel the same way, but
You know,
it
I
was
don't listen to anything anybody says. Like whether it's me, you, I have like I black out for like 2 hours and then I never listen to it again.
fair enough. Well, speaking of blacking out for 2 hours, I think we ought to talk about this Duquesne game on Tuesday the 20th.
You're learning from me on your transitions.
Yeah, that one was pretty smooth there.
Fantastic work. 81-66 loss at Duquesne, Tuesday the 20th. This one I nearly I was this the same night as the city game. It was horrible because we're
I think
getting
it was. I
we're
think it
getting
was.
our
Yes.
are just absolute doors blown off in this Duquesne game. And the city game starts. I'm like, finally, a reprieve, something else that I want to watch that I can listen to. And the announcer was worse than the Duquesne announcer. It was, I was in hell, truly in hell.
Yeah.
But this start was just absolutely horrendous. I've, I don't know how this team, like, I don't know what the plan, uh, like, I don't, were they not prepared again for pressure?
Yeah, that's a good question, Zach. I were they not prepared? I would say you're right. They were not prepared. Like they weren't prepared for anything. And I mean, the way this game started, I don't think they were prepared for the time of day that the game was, because Duquesne got out to a 25-4 lead, which I think was the biggest of the half. SLU did somehow cut it to 14 points at halftime, 41-27, because quite frankly, I don't think Duquesne is very disciplined. They settled for way too many long range threes. They could have easily had 50 or more points in this half, but they just kind of at times tried to see if they could get hot again and just took dumb shots. I didn't quite know what they were doing. I was like, you guys, if you give SLU's defense like 5 to 8 seconds, you're gonna find holes. You don't need to shoot a 30-footer. Day Grant or whoever else was on their team was taking dumb long threes or long twos. I was like, you guys just pass it twice and watch the thing open up like the Red Sea and just have what you want. I don't know what Duquesne was doing. So 47, I would have been, or sorry, 41, I would have been really upset if I were a Duquesne fan. I mean, they left double-digit points on the table easily.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with this is again, I think if I'm any other fan but like SLU, VCU, Dayton,
Yeah.
like I don't know that like I'm loving this.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but I think, and maybe my perspective is just the fact
I
that I've
think
seen
all of our perspectives are
we've
nuts.
seen SLU play too much, so we know how bad the defense is. So I understand what you're saying, but there were stretches where I just thought Duquesne could be growing and growing and growing that lead and making this like a truly embarrassing margin. But they were just settling for easy stuff. So SLU did get to within 11 early in the second half before it got out of control again. And the question, Zach, that I kind of asked watching this game, related to what you asked to open this one up, is what was the scouting report on Day Grant? Like, this guy's not a mystery. He was a first team all conference preseason player, right? Everybody
We have
knows who he is.
we have an assistant who was on staff at Duquesne.
Yeah. Yeah. So
What is he doing?
this guy is like one of the least mysterious guys we'll face all year. Like, there are other teams, and we'll get into this later, who have transfers who we haven't seen yet necessarily, right? But Grant is a guy we've seen. We know what he does. 31 points on 10 of 19 shooting, 6 for 13 from three. As I said, some of those threes were dumb, but like they seem content to let him shoot even good threes. You don't want anybody going 6 of 13 from three. That's just, it's too many attempts, it's too many makes. Bad, bad, bad news. And yeah, it's another 30 piece for the leading scorer on an opposing team. It happens to us way, way too much.
I've
So
never seen anything like it, Peter.
no, I haven't seen anything like it since the last game.
Since for the last how many years do you think that's been going on?
Hmm.
2, 3?
Well, Duquesne in particular, we've had guys who have just really gone off against us, and not
That's
just
why we got Charles Thomas.
in the past couple of years, but they've had guys really have big games against us. We had that Billiken Killers conversation last summer or something like that, and Duquesne had a few entries on there.
There's a lot of entries being written in the
Yes.
last 2 years.
Oh my God, have there ever? But even the guys who haven't like fully established themselves, Duquesne always has had one player really go off against us. So I don't know what it is, but we should have been prepared for this guy, and we just weren't.
No, we were not. And I don't know if Duquesne was ready for Kellen Thames in this one because he was the lone bright spot.
He really was. 30 minutes, 12 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 1 foul, 1 turnover. That 1 foul is kind of my favorite part of that whole thing because we've been harping on him about foul trouble, and he stayed out of it in this game. And he was just his normal, active, bouncy self throughout. So I really liked what he was bringing, but he seemed like the only guy who had, a good night's sleep before this game, because everybody else just didn't bring it.
You know what? I really want to go into like this tangent about Kellen Thames and how I don't understand why we don't run more stuff for him, like those quick hitters that we saw from like anything that you would run to get Sincere Parker involved in the offense. Like run that for Kellen Thames too. Because I think Kellen Thames has that gene.
I do, but also like you just say like those two names, and you wonder, why do we not push things in transition like all day?
And we're gonna get
Like,
into it for GW.
we still score a ton without running a very fast offense, and it's just like, guys,
We could
uh,
score 200.
we really could, we really could. I don't understand. I mean, we have a team. What I see as, and I guess we don't really have strong point guard play, but otherwise we have a roster that's very well suited to play fast, 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 fast. So yeah, I don't get it.
Because we don't have the legs, dude.
I guess so. You got
Jesus.
to reserve your strength for those practices.
Parker just this ended his hot streak. He just couldn't get anything going in this one. He seemed to have some foot problems in the second half, which we would find more out about later.
Yeah, he didn't end up playing in the next game. I guess that was related. This initially made me nervous given his foot injury earlier this season, but when he didn't play against George Washington, we were told it was foot problems, but unrelated to that injury. So yeah, I don't know. I guess
We need to find him some new shoes.
yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
Well,
Um, but I mean, a lot of credit has to go to Jimmy Clark on Duquesne. He spent a little time on Parker, a little time on Jimerson, and Jimerson couldn't get free either, especially when Clark was guarding him. He did score 12 overall, but Clark ended up with 6 steals to go with his 18 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists. So he did a good job. And I'm forgetting the other dude's name who they spent most of the game on Parker and Jimerson and really frustrated those guys. And of course, Slew having no playmaking creativity whatsoever. Just no way to get those guys loose.
Hughes was a non-factor in this one. Foul trouble immediately. 4 fouls in his first 6 minutes of play. Didn't get in again until late in the second half. Hargrove had
Mhm.
17. He's been maybe the steadiest force offensively.
It's
Like
weird
he's not
because
been great, but he's
yeah,
always tend to put up that between 10 and 15, 10 and 20.
yeah, he's been I agree, like our most and it's interesting for Hargrove too, because he's kind of been our quietly most consistent player, right?
Yes,
Like every
100%.
game
I
he's
I
putting up
I
double
I
figures and good rebounding numbers and like fairly efficient shooting numbers and and just but you don't come away necessarily thinking about the game he had when it ends, right?
he would be a great Cody Ellis piece on a good team.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, people.
Yeah.
Um, Ezewiro had 13 and 7. I don't know what else to say about him. There's nothing on the stat sheet that really jumps out as to why this game went the way it did. I think you really can really parse it down to that first 10 minutes, that
Yeah.
first half. Like they were ready to play. They came ready to play. They played with intensity, and I don't know what we did.
It
This
just
is one of those times where you're like, okay, Travis, yeah, team didn't bring intensity. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
even when Slew got to within like 11 or so and you thought like, oh, are they closing the gap? Are they coming back? I mean, it still just never felt like it was going to happen.
Yeah.
It just didn't. The funniest the funniest part to me, Zach, though, the Duquesne announcers who are really goofy, and I know you and I and West Pine Bills and other fans all have different perspectives on what these guys exactly bring. I think they sound like small town high school basketball announcers. They are goofy.
And boom goes the dynamite.
I mean, they are clowns. But like they were exasperated at a point in the second half. They were just like they're watching Slew play defense and they just go, "Oh, they can't guard anybody. They don't want to guard anybody." And then they're like, "They were better in that press there for a minute than they were in the half court defense." And the other guy jumps in and goes, "Yeah, I asked myself that question before the game. Can they defend? Nope." And this was just right in the middle of a play. Like it was unbelievable. These guys were just like smacking themselves on the forehead, being like, "We've never seen a team defend this poorly. They can't stay in front of anyone."
I couldn't listen. Like I cannot. And I think this again, we're gonna point back to the Travis Ford, please fire Travis Ford before the season ends, because I cannot listen to announcers go on the Travis Ford PR train anymore.
Well,
I
they
cannot
do.
hear about this. It's the same spiel. It's like they're handed
Yeah.
talking points.
Yeah, and they do that before the game and then they watch the team play, they don't really go back to that stuff, Like
No,
some of them have the audacity like as the game's going on to be like, well, if their better players are injured or whatever, but it's like if you watch the game unfold, you just go, they have no clue what they're doing defensively, and that's on the coach. It's really incredible. But look, I can see why Duquesne got kind of overrated this season.
yeah,
They've got some individually talented players. They've got good players. They were fun last season. Like last season, they were supposed to be terrible, finished last in the conference, and they didn't. They were
they were
literally
the anti-Billikens.
enjoyable to watch. No expectations, and they outperformed it. So I can kind of see why that happened, but they're just not as good as a unit as they are individually. Um, that this win gave them 7 in their last 9, but I just don't see this being a team that wins a conference tournament.
No, I mean it's just it's a I hate this season so damn much, Peter.
Well, yeah, because in normal year, if you can defend and rebound, this is the kind of team you beat,
Oh my
right?
God. If we could defend and rebound, if this team right here could defend and rebound,
Yeah,
I,
it'd be
I
great. It'd be great. This is exactly the kind of
this
team you beat. This Duquesne team
no, you'd beat every freaking team. Like
in
this,
this league. Yeah,
yes,
you
we
pretty
would
much
be
would be
damn
close
near the
to it.
top of the league.
Yeah.
All we needed was two big men. They could defend and rebound and maybe score a little. Unbelievable. Speaking of defense, let's talk about this George Washington game, Pete.
96-91
Huh.
win over George
C- c-
Washington on Saturday the 24th.
Congrats, Billiken fans. You got NBA basketball without the NBA prices. My God, extend Chris May.
It was NBA style basketball with a much lower caliber of player. I gotta, let's be clear.
It
We
was
tweeted,
worse defense. 96-91 because it was worse defense than you'd see in the NBA.
oh yeah. Oh, I mean easily.
No, I mean my point was there was no defense in the never mind.
Yeah.
Never, yeah.
Well,
It was a
yeah,
bad joke. It was not
it's
great.
we tweeted out before the game that this would be a combined 200-point game scored in regulation, or at least that it could be. And we got 187 points. We were close, but we didn't know that Sincere Parker was going to be out for this game, to be fair. Zach, I think you thought that this game should have been a blowout, though, right?
Yes, that's kind of like this is the best that our offense can be.
Yeah.
We're shooting this well. What if that George Washington team is so bad and missing two key players? How do we give up 90? Like, how do you score that? This should have been 91-70 or 96-70.
You're missing two key players if you're George Washington, and one of them is not named James Bishop, which means that guy is going to take every shot.
Yes.
Like hound him and like put guards on him without fear of fouling, right? Like knowing that you've got other guys on the bench, knowing that you don't have a Yuri Collins who you're worried about getting in foul trouble, a Jordan Goodwin who you're worried about getting in foul trouble. Hound that guy. Don't give him any room to do anything, because he's the only guy on their team who's actually going to be a scoring threat.
Yeah.
And instead, what happens is he scores, like we just said in the last game, yet another A10 player to have a 30-point game on us, 34 to be exact in this case. And yeah, he just had a little too much space, Zach, to operate.
I wonder where, like, because Travis has harped on the physicality, and we saw a little bit in this game where we looked decent on defense with Steph in there. But
Yeah.
like a guy like George Churchich, I don't care how good at defense or bad at defense he is, like that dude is willing to go face first into the stanchion for a loose ball. Put him on Day Grant. Put him on James Bishop. Let him beat the shit out of him.
Yeah. Test the refs. The refs.
Yeah. I don't understand. If you're looking for toughness, George Churchich and Steph Van Bussell are your guys. And we're going to get into that further as we get into this game. Again, this should have been, this is a 25 to 30 point blowout with any sort of defense from the Billikens. GW made a game of this. They pulled it within 2 points 3 times in the final minute, Pete.
They did. And the first time they got to within 2 was after Medley missed a pair of free throws with 59 seconds left. Bishop converts at the other end, and you just get that feeling, Zach, of like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, this is not happening right now. But luckily, SLU was 9 of 10 from the line after that. Hargrove had the only miss. They really could not afford any more than that one miss. And Medley, by the way, after that went 4 for 4. So, crisis averted, but they not only gave up the lead here, they almost gave up the entire game from one that seemed very much in the bag as the first half progressed, because SLU led 55 to 42 at halftime. That's only because Bishop hit a 3 at the buzzer. That's a season high for points in the first half, and it matches the 55 they scored in the second half against St. Joe's when Billy Lang handed them the game. Um, just one of those things, Zach, like the way that that first half went, it was unimaginable if you told me at that point George Washington is going to have this one down to the wire.
The question has been asked on more than one occasion, dare I say it, many occasions. What the hell is going on in that locker room at halftime?
Yeah, I know. It's a valid question.
Like, I just don't know how often. Like, I wonder how much when we are winning that it's so interesting because I think on a lot of different levels, Travis Ford overthinks and overcoaches
Mhm.
and just I don't know, over a lot of things. But like, uh, did you address what George Washington might do and how you would react if they did it? I don't,
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't, frankly, I just realized like I almost said I don't care. And I realized this, how much I have somebody in this Discord server, uh, not our Discord server. We're not that popular. But somebody said like they literally said don't care on the result of the game. And I thought about that and how much I've had to disassociate, not just with Billiken losses, but like the idea of sports affecting me in any sort of way. Like, I don't talk shit to people anymore about like, I'm not going to go on the Twitter and interact in any sort of shit talking way with like a VCU fan. I don't like, it doesn't matter to me this year. Like, I've had
Mhm.
to like, I've realized that like, it doesn't make any sense. And that's scary to me because that means now that I don't sports as a whole and watching pro and college sports, like my brain is starting to really try to separate itself from caring about sports altogether. I was
Mhm.
just trying to push it away for like a season of Billiken basketball, and now I'm flirting with like sports really don't matter all that much, do they? Huh?
Yeah, it's put other things in perspective, I guess.
I
When you're
don't
not in,
like it.
when you're not enjoying it as much. Um, yeah, I know. I still care. I mean, I'm here.
Yeah.
I still
Oh, I
care.
care. I'm gonna drive my happy ass down to down to Chaffetz on Wednesday night. I will once again not pay for a ticket.
Yeah.
I have paid directly to the Billiken ticket office. I have paid $0. No, I have paid $10 this year.
For a
And that
women's
was for
game.
a women's basketball ticket.
Mhm.
That is the one time I have given money directly to the Billiken ticket office. Now, I have eaten at games. I will admit to that. But
They're getting that chicken tender margin on you.
yeah, they are. Yeah, they
So
are. Those gross ass.
speaking of halftime adjustments here, Slew goes 12 of 19 from three, which is phenomenal in the first half. I love that they shot 19, by the way. Made 12. Second half, 1 for 7 from three. First half, they shot over 65%. Second half, then that's overall. Second half, they shot under 35%. So clearly, I think it's more than just cooling off, right? Like GW made
Stop pushing the tempo.
as bad as George Washington's defense is, and they are appalling. Like they're a really bad team. They clearly did some things differently, right? Like they were trying to take away some looks a little bit more than in the first half. And I know halftime can be it's a big dividing line, and guys cool off, and yeah, Slew played a little bit differently. But I don't know what was said in Slew's locker room. Because yeah, of the way this game swung, Zach. It was pretty I don't know, it was pretty jarring because like that whole first half you just kind of felt like, okay, good. This was an easy one.
Yes. I don't like I don't understand why you're not trying to knock teams out.
Yeah.
Like you have won this is your third win in conference, is that right?
Yes, 3-11 now.
This is your third win in conference. What do you have to lose?
Hmm.
What? Another? You're not getting out of the pillow fight.
Mhm.
What do you lose? You lose another game at home. What? Like, I understand not wanting to like go way outside the box or whatever to start again, but like you're up 55-42.
Mhm.
Push the tempo. You can clearly, you have seen your offense, like you score in transition and like moving the ball quickly. Like, why aren't you trying to extend that? Like, I don't understand it. I don't,
Yeah.
it's so much of like that overthinking Travis Ford. Oh, well, we're up 55-42. We got to slow it down and try to like, I don't know. Is that that's not analytical, is it? Like,
No, it's just being too conservative.
yes, the conservativeness in we don't want to get anybody angry. We don't want to get shot, you know.
Lowercase c.
Yeah, lowercase c. Too much conservative basketball in this
Mhm.
one.
Yeah.
And in every game, really. Like, go for that knockout. Throw your best stuff every time.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. The second half shooting decreased to under 35%.
I know, from over 65%. It's wild. But we did have 6 players in double figures. So
Almost seven,
that's
nearly
something.
seven.
That's something.
It
Yeah.
is. This is a game that you win. Like, this is an NCAA tournament game where you win going away,
Mhm.
offensively speaking,
Sure.
against anybody.
You shoot 12 for 19 from 3.5, and that's gonna put teams in a hole that's hard to get out of.
With any sort of just the defense, man.
Mhm.
A little bit. I don't know. Jimerson with 19 in this one, leading all scores.
Yeah, he was
Uh,
only 5 of 18 though, and 3 of 10 from 3. He was one that in the first half, it kind of took him a while to get going, right? It kind of felt like, and then in the second half too. I mean, he's the one who never really got in a rhythm here, which was odd. He had his moments, but 3 of 10 from 3. Like if you told me Slew went 12 of 19 for 3 in the first half, I would have been like, okay. I mean, Jimerson obviously played a role in that, right? But a smaller role than you would think for sure.
a career high for Medley in this one, right? Has to be.
Yeah, yeah. 14 points, 7 assists, 7 ties his career high. And then he hit both of his 3-point attempts. He was 6 of 8 from the free throw line. Both of those marks are career highs as well. So yeah, big day for him. And then Hughes also had 14 and was more efficient than he's been lately. 4 of 7, 2 of 5 from 3, and then 4 of 5 from the line. So pretty good day for him. He let his hair out. I don't
Yes.
know if the different look kind of had him feeling.
Larry Hughes' former teammate Anderson Varejao would be proud of that hair.
Yeah.
Hargrove, steady Eddie, 13 points, 8 rebounds. Ezewiro, 10 and 7. I did notice Ezewiro. I finally noticed people talk about like Ezewiro being, aloof, not necessarily in the game. And I saw one of the worst, his worst defensive possession. Like, I noticed it.
Mhm.
Hughes got driven on, and Ezewiro is just watching the drive, and Ford nearly ran out to the lane to yell, "You're just watching!" Because, by the way, you could hear everything that he was saying because of so much dead air on the broadcast.
Oh yeah, I know.
We're gonna get it. We need to get into that too because I have thoughts.
Do we need to get into that?
I can. I'll,
All right, we will.
Thames 11 points on 4 of 5 shooting, 2 of 3 from 3. We've said it. He's he's efficient. He's incredibly efficient, and he is not a point of emphasis in this offense.
And he had a good week despite that.
Yeah. Churchich came out of like not out of nowhere. Career high 9 points, 3 of 4 from the field, all from 3. He had a career high 5 assists. Play this man.
Yeah, he did it in just how many minutes did he get here? He did it in 23 minutes. 5 assists, 1 turnover, 1 steal. Yeah, I just like he earned his minutes here, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he had a good game, and every time you noticed him out there, he was in the right spot. He looked good. I really liked what he brought to this.
Zhang got 4 points and no rebounds. Van Bussel, interesting game in this one. I thought he had some real good minutes. Every time we see him out there, it seems like he's more comfortable, more relaxed, less frenetic. Just more. He just improves every time we see him, and I think it's somebody like regardless of what he brings on offense or if he turns the ball, I don't care. The dude brings a physicality in the paint, and we are missing that sorely on the defensive end, especially when guards drive past our guards.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I only put these two in there because they only played 8 and 7 minutes and they didn't put up big numbers. And a lot of times we would just skip over that. But to just kind of highlight how different their trajectories have been over the course of the season,
Yeah.
because Bruce started out, he did some nice things early, and we all thought, "Ooh, we have like a prospect here. He's a 7 footer. He's got like kind of a little bit of finesse on offense. He's an interesting player." And then Steph, we all thought like this guy's a stiff. He at best he's a goon. And then as time has gone on, you're like, well, he can
He's
rebound.
a lovable goon.
And Bruce cannot rebound. I
No.
mean, he is not a rebounder. 0 rebounds in this one, and it's a struggle for him to get that board. And normally when he does, it's like just a little tip putback kind of thing. Steph can rebound. He hits everything hard. He hits other people hard. I mean, I like his game. He's big. He's gritty. He tries hard, and those guys have just gone a completely different direction over the course of the year. At the beginning of the year, I would have said Bruce is a guy you want to protect him, keep him. But now I don't necessarily feel that way. I don't
I
know where he's going, but Steph, I love the effort there. He's got the character of the young freshman big you would want on your team. Defend, rebound, right?
Yes. I think Zhang certainly like he can learn to rebound if he wants to. If he wants to figure it out, he could do it. But like right now, I think the trajectory for SVB is like I don't think anything Zhang does in the middle of this season is going to he's not going to improve within the season. Like Van
Mhm.
Bussel has a better upside in the middle of this season where he's getting better as the season goes because he has that defense and rebounding. You're never mind. I like the defensive side is not something you can teach in the middle of the season.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
rebounding, it's tough because again, you're trying to protect your bigs, trying to keep people healthy. It's a physical demanding drill to run, a rebounding drill. So it's difficult. The Billikens made 27 of 33 from the free throw line. That both season highs. The Bills only had 7 turnovers. Again, great number. However, Pete,
I mean, GW's defense is bad. Like I'd love to say, hey, 7 turnovers, you got to protect the ball, but like GW just does not. I mean, it's comparable to SLU. Like if you look at the numbers, right? But they've done it against a weaker schedule, and which is hard to even imagine. This was their 10th straight loss, and they just don't appear to be trying at all, especially on the defensive end. I was kind of amazed because I thought, okay, so there are teams kind of down at our level in this conference. I knew that GW was losing a lot lately, and LaSalle and SLU are pretty comparable and things like that. And I knew Rhode Island was struggling, but man, oh man, I did not think that I would see another defense as bad or even worse than SLU's, but this was really something to behold.
let's go around the A10, Pete.
Do you want to get
Wow.
into the broadcast at all before we do,
Yes,
Zach?
yes, I do. Thank you.
All
Because
right.
I got blinded by the 2 Men in a Garden ad read there for a minute.
Okay.
I'm so excited about our sponsor that I literally was skipping over things I wanted to talk about. Yeah, the broadcast. So we've had what 4 games of Alexa Dat now, maybe 5.
I think this was the fourth. I think we've got one more to go.
Dude, uh, I just don't. There's so much dead air. Like you can't even look away from the game for 2 seconds because you have no idea what's going on. I am sure that like I just don't think she's a basketball play-by-play person. I think she'd be great at baseball. She, or she'd be good at baseball. She'd be at home with baseball. But like I just don't know. Like it just signals as much that like nobody gives a shit about this season in the athletic department.
Mm-hmm.
That we can't find anybody else and subsidize them to do the announcing.
Yeah.
It's and I don't want this to, again. I feel like it's always going straight at somebody who's trying their best at their job, but like I'm not mad at Alexa Dat. Alexa Dat, I'm sure, is a wonderful person and very good at what she does in the studio. I know she's good in the studio with the Blues and the Cardinals, but like she is not a play-by-play person. Um, it's just not there. And right now, could she be? I don't know. Good, like that's great, but like SLU should not be the place you put somebody who's never done play-by-play on any level. And I said that before, and this season has just confirmed it for me. I can't. It's frustrating, and even if you want to say like Bally Sports, um, contract and they're running out of money, it's like you have to be aware that Bally Sports is in financial trouble if you're Chris May and have some sort of contingency plan if
Mm-hmm.
Bally Sports tries to screw you over. I mean, we broadcast men's soccer, men's, women's soccer, baseball, softball. There are people out there you can get to do play by play, and I just leaving it up to Bally Sports to kind of just insult us with somebody who'd never done it before is just frustrating. Um, I'm gonna go get some 2 minute in the garden salsa because I need an emotional pick me up.
Yeah, and I don't blame you, Zach. I mean, the salsa is a good way to go, but lately I gotta say I've got a couple jars of the dill pickles that I recently ran out of, and I don't know what's going on in their kitchen, their factory, their bottling, packaging line, whatever.
Magic.
The pickles lately have been fantastic. Like they just keep getting better. Whatever they've dialed in lately, they've just really got this thing, the recipe just right. Um, I just gotta say, yeah, the dill are my favorite, but if you're going with the bread and butter or the bread and butter kicker, or even the smoky ones, spicy dill. I mean, they've got the five different varieties, but to me, the classic dill, it just doesn't get any better. And they've really perfected whatever magic they've got going on in that facility. So head over to 2minutegarden.com, check out the product category pickles, get any of their five products, or you can find most of them locally at Schnucks, Straub's, a lot of your local grocery stores. If you're in St. Louis, go check them out. But you can find them anytime at 2minutegarden.com.
Let's go around the A10, Pete. Tuesday the 20th, Davidson 68, Fordham 53, UMass 74, and to nobody's surprise, here in St. Louis, VCU 52.
Yeah, they had a little fool's gold thinking their offense was back after that SLU game.
It is not back. Wednesday the 21st, LaSalle dropping St. Bonaventure 72-59. A lot of chatter around Bonaventure. They're a little suspect of Mark Schmidt down there. Well, they go back and forth every year on Schmidt, don't they?
They go back and forth every week now or every game.
Comrade Schmidt. By the way, that whole bit bothers me because Lil Bana X uses the Russian the Cyrillic letter that's not N.
Hmm.
He uses he uses Yi. There's E and Yi. I think that's how E. I don't know. I forget. I took 3 semesters. I learned how to say vodka. Give me a break. Uh
I didn't take any Russian. I've watched, some James Bond movies, but that's about it.
anyway, Richmond 84, Rhode Island 77, St. Joe's 79, George Washington 75. George Washington really does stink.
Mhm.
Uh, George Mason 71, Dayton 67. Give it up for our the Juggalo Patriot over there. I love that he's got the painted face. I think that's so random and ridiculous.
Yeah, it's funny. This was also, by the way, George Mason's first win over a ranked opponent at home in program history, which
That's
was crazy.
for a team that's been to a final, for a program that's been to a Final Four.
It's just like, but they've been in the A10 for what, a decade now.
Too
It's
long.
something like that. So it just shows you, like, even in the A10, but before that they were in the Colonial, you don't get many swings at a ranked opponent at home if you're not in a major conference. You really don't. So anyway, credit to them for a big win.
Pete, tell us about Friday 10.
Friday 10 was a real barn burner between two of our finest. Fordham 79, Duquesne 67 in a, just kind of ugly game all the way around. Duquesne fans not happy after that one.
Is
Um,
Dambrot on the hot seat here?
it's so funny because some of the most prominent Duquesne people we follow will be like, no, he's the guy. He's still our guy. If you don't think this is as good as we can do, you're nuts. And I'm just kind of like, really? Like another person couldn't step in there and win more?
Well, I
Is
mean,
he?
isn't the rumor that like Dambrot's just going to retire and it's Drew Joyce?
Yeah, something like that. And which I would be thrilled as a Duquesne fan to, like it's Dan Brush is going to be mediocre forever there. Every once in a while they're going to outperform. They'll finish like, I don't know,
His
fourth in
future is
conference
Fran Dunphy,
at best. Yeah,
where he just kind of coaches a middling little team.
mhm.
He's a caretaker of a program. I don't know.
Right. Like he's not going to drive another Mac program into the ground or anything like that. So
No.
no, he'd be fine at another place like that. But not. I kind of feel like he's a low ceiling guy. Saturday the 24th, we had St. Bonaventure 75, UMass 67. I guess extend Mark Schmidt after that one. Loyola 80, George Mason 59. I don't know what happened to George Mason after that Dayton win, but maybe they partied a little too hard.
Hell yeah, brother.
Loyola, by the way, has been really good lately. And then Richmond, in the battle of our country club programs, Richmond 66, Davidson 63, and then to
The
wrap it
Vineyard
up,
Vines beats the Brooks Brothers.
that's that's right. That's right. And then on Sunday the 25th, we had LaSalle winning again, 84, Rhode Island 61, and then VCU 73, St. Joe 69.
And the Explorers celebrated with skinny dipping in the pool.
That's right. They went down the slide.
Yes, they did. That hopefully that might hurt a little bit. Let's preview a couple. I almost said let's skip one of these games because I thought we'd already played one of these teams, but we haven't.
No, these are two new teams, and I think that's got to be the last time that happens, right? Because we've got we've got Dayton, and then we finish with St. Bonaventure, who I guess we haven't seen yet this year, but we know Dayton by now.
I looked at the schedule and I was like, "There's really 5 more games. We have 5 more games left.
Well, it's four now.
Whatever, too many."
It's just 2 weeks though. But yeah, I'm gonna fly through these. We play Richmond on Wednesday, the 28th at home, and then we go to Rhode Island on Saturday, March 2nd. So Richmond is an interesting team this year. They're a somewhat surprising 20-8 overall, very surprising 12-2 in conference, tied in first right now with Loyola, which is crazy and has Dayton fans seething, I'm sure. Chris Mooney is in his 19th season as the head coach of the Richmond Spiders. He's led them into the NCAA tournament 3 times, although I think they may have made it in 2020 before it was canceled, and they were ranked as high as number 19 the following season before they fell off, and we know how that feels. They started out this season as a team that was scoring a ton, over 80 in their first, I should say 5 of their first 8 games, and they hit 90 in 3 of those. And then they've become more of a defensive minded team after that. They went 8-5 in non-conference. They lost to Florida, Colorado, BC. Northern Iowa, Wichita State. Nothing too surprising there. But the A10 season has really opened eyes as they kind of started out 8-0 and have either shared or held outright first place for most of the season. Again, they're doing it with defense. They usually don't win by a lot. 8 of their 12 conference wins have been by single digits, but they're 29th in Ken Palm's adjusted defensive efficiency. They're 32nd in points allowed per game, just about 66, a little bit under that per game. They don't foul much at all. Offensively, they protect the ball as well as anyone in the nation, just 8.4 turnovers per game. They're pretty efficient shooting it, 464, 362, 735. So you can't leave them alone anywhere. They play pretty much the way Mooney teams always have. A lot of that Ivy League influence, cutting, screening, shooting. It's not aggressive stuff. They don't crash the glass at all. They're basically last in the country in offensive rebounding. If you're looking at their starting lineup, Jordan King leads the offense at 18.8 points a game. He's a fifth-year transfer from East Tennessee State, and he's just 6 foot 175, but he's exactly the kind of guy who lately has scored 30 or more against SLU. So he's the guy to watch out for. Neil Quinn is a fifth-year player in his second year at Richmond after transferring from Lafayette. He's a 7-footer, 280 pounds, big. He's an okay rebounder. He's a little soft. He's actually their leader in assists because he just does a ton out of the high post.
This team
Uh,
is so screwed.
it's a
We are
weird,
we are in a lot of trouble.
yeah.
They're just
Um,
gonna run through. It's gonna be insane.
they're gonna have no problems against us. Isaiah Bigelow is a 6'7" senior. He's a better rebounder than Quinn actually, and he scores 11.4 points a game. Good shooter, pretty efficient from everywhere. And then how do you say his name? DG Bailey, G Bailey. It's DJI.
G Bailey.
I've heard
I think it's
Bailey refer. Yeah, okay.
Jai or G Bailey. I think it's like a
Yeah,
Drew Holiday.
it's one of those names like I know I've
Uh,
heard in broadcast, and I'm just like I'm overthinking it now.
It's like
But
a Drew. It's like a Drew
yeah,
Holiday.
it doesn't make sense. Anyway, he's a fourth year player. He's played his whole career at Richmond, but only this year has he taken a jump. He's been a guy you can kind of skip over in previous years, 3 points per game or less, really. And that's where he was as a junior, and now he's scoring over 10 points a game as a senior. Delani Hunt is the other starter in the lineup. He's a fourth year transfer from Wagner. He averages just over 9 a game. He's also small, about 6 foot. So they have small guards, but they're pretty, you know, pretty good team nonetheless. It's a game where you wish you had Meadows and Medley to line up with these guys. I think that would be a good combo again. But really, experience, patience, poise. The whole starting lineup is fourth or fifth year players. Four of them are their transfers in their first or second years there, but they play really well together in Mooney's system and have generally gotten better as the season has progressed. So yeah, you're right, Zach. This could be kind of a tough matchup for us, and we've been all right against Richmond in the past too. So it's kind of a shame.
Yeah, I just really don't. I mean, they're like I just imagine them running that offense and our guys just looking like they're watching the Tasmanian Devil.
They're gonna carve us up.
Yeah. Yeah. Rhode Island, Pete. This has to be a win.
It does, yeah. If you're looking at the rest of the schedule, this is the one that stands out as the one that has to be a win, and then you hope you pick off another one. But after starting the season 3-0, they're now 11-15. They're 5-9 in conference. Archie Miller's in his second year there and has won just 20 total games. He went 9-22 last season. They're honestly a little worse than I thought. I mean, I know his 4 years at Indiana were not successful, but he was really good at Dayton. He's making people forget.
You
It
know
might have
what's
to.
it's interesting about Rhode Island is I do they have fans?
They do. They're just
No, I mean like I'm not like joking. Like their arena makes it very hard to tell if there's anybody in the building.
fair question. I don't know. They're
Like
the
when you
northeastern outpost. I've never been up there to a game.
I feel like when you watch a Billiken game, like even when we don't have good crowds, there's you can they pan to the crowd a lot. There's a lot like you can tell what's happening in the crowd. In this one, it's like it's just like it's just a shot of the court and then like close ups of a couple fans here and there. Like I don't know.
It's a fair question. I don't know much about the Ryan Center though, but I'll make it a point to get out there sometime and
Yeah,
figure
can you
out the
report
mystery.
back on that?
I will.
All
I
right,
will.
thank
I
you.
promise. But I just think they're a little worse than I. Maybe it has to do with how many new players he has this year. But we've seen other teams with less experienced coaches do well with a lot of new guys. So they're really streaky. They also started A10 play 3-0 before losing four straight, and now they're on a 3-game losing streak. The only wins since their 3-0 start in conference have been against LaSalle and GW. They're not as bad as SLU or GW defensively, but they're bad. They give up 76.3 points a game. They barely force over 9 turnovers per game. They're a decent rebounding team, actually, pretty good on that front, especially defensively. But tell me if you've heard this one before. They're a good 3-point shooting team in terms of percentage, but they only attempt about 18 a game. They're one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the country, but somehow their opponents only shoot 65.3% from the line, which is also near the bottom of the country. There just must be something about the shooting backdrop at the Ryan Center or something like that. So I think you're onto something with the mystery of that building, Zach. Um, Jaden House is the leading scorer at 15.2 points a game. He's a 6'4" guard who transferred from High Point. Good 3-point shooter, but about 2/3 of his attempt comes from inside the arc, which is kind of true of all these guys. They're not high volume shooters across the board. David Green, he's 6'7", 215 wing. Didn't play the first dozen or so games because, like Brad Azawiro, he was a two-time transfer waiting on clearance, but he's become their second leading scorer since joining the lineup, averaging 14.3 points a game. Very good 3-point shooter, not super high volume, but a very bad free throw shooter. Another, which I guess is pretty consistent with their overall lineup. Although interestingly, their record has been worse since he has rejoined. Luis Courtwright, he's a 6'3" senior transfer from Quinnipiac. He averages us just over 10 a game. Zeke Montgomery is a 6'6" wing, junior transfer from Bradley. He averages about 10 and 4. He's actually from Louisville, but he went to St. Louis Christian Academy before it closed, just in case you recognize his name. And then David Fuchs is their big man. He's a 6'9", 225-pound forward from Austria. He's just a freshman. He averages about 8 and 7, but he is coming off a 23 and 12 performance against Richmond, which not surprising because Richmond's pretty soft inside and their big man likes to wander out of the paint a lot. So, that's the kind of game that a guy is going to have a big game against. So, lastly, I guess I would just say overall, there's really not a lot to be scared of here, but they're better than George Washington. I think right now there are probably 4 teams with 5 wins who are all trying to stay above SLU and GW in the standings and avoid the pillow fight. Only 2 of them are going to succeed, and I think Davidson's going to be one of them. There's a chance Rhodey would be number 2, but I don't know, Zach. Why don't you run us through the standings while we're on that subject?
Oh, do we have to?
We don't have to, but
Yeah,
we're down the stretch now. I think we got to put this thing in context.
Loyola, Loyola and Richmond sit atop the conference at 12 and 2. Dayton 11 and 3. VCU 10 and 4. St. Bonaventure 8 and 7. UMass 8 and 7. George Mason 7 and 8. St. Joe's 7 and 8. Duquesne 6 and 8. Davidson 5 and 9, along with Fordham and Rhode Island. LaSalle 5 and 10. George Washington 3 and 11. I bet you're wondering where St. Louis is. Did we forget them? Did we forget SLU? No, we did not. No, we did not. They are 3 and 11, sitting squarely in last place.
Although I think they would get the 14 seed and not the 15 based on the
So
head-to-head
14th
result.
place, because we have to stay. We can't be contradictory.
That's right. Yeah. So we would get that seed above GW, but I don't think it's going to matter.
Let's run down basketball real quick. Women's basketball, they dropped a 79-64 road game versus Fordham on Wednesday, the 21st. Kyla McMakin hit a shot at the end of the third quarter to get the Bills within 9, but Fordham went on a 6-0 run to start the fourth quarter, and SLU couldn't get it down to single digits again. This was the second straight game where Brooke Flowers' absence was really felt Not that she's injured, she graduated, just a reminder.
Mhm.
Fordham outscored SLU 48-22 on points in the paint. It was another poor shooting performance from SLU. 34.4% from the field, 26.9 from three. Peyton Kennedy did all she could to keep the Bills in this one. 24 points on 9 of 15 shooting, plus 7 rebounds to go along with that. McMakin, 15 on 5 of 13 shooting. Martinez, steady Eddie for the women. 9 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, and 4 steals. She also had 4 fouls and 5 turnovers, however, so maybe not so steady on that side of things. McMakin and Kennedy Calhoun were in foul trouble with 4 apiece. Both teams struggled on the defensive glass. Could have been an opportunity for SLU to keep it closer, if not win outright. Fordham had 19 second chance points. Pete, the next game was nothing short of it was a drubbing for most of the game.
For most of the game, yeah, it was. Bonaventure got back into it a little bit, but the final score, Zach, 83-61 win against St. Bonaventure on Sunday the 25th. SLU got off to a 21-10 lead after the first quarter and led 46-18 at halftime, which is it's just incredible number. But St. Bonaventure then outscored SLU by 3 in each of the final 2 quarters. It didn't really matter. It was never really in doubt, but you do want to finish a little bit stronger than that. Kyla McMakin, great game, 30 points on 13 of 22 shooting. She went 2 of 5 from 3, just kind of let the game come to her. Peyton Kennedy scored 23. That's 24 and 23 in back-to-back games, by the way. That's like player of the week-ish numbers. Just throwing that out there. Going 9 of 17 from the field, just 1 of 3 from 3. Again, didn't shoot a lot from 3. She had 8 rebounds to go with that, but SLU only shot 4 of 13 as a team from 3. They didn't really need to shoot outside a whole lot because they got 40 points in the paint. They had 21 fast break points compared to just 28 and 4 from the Bonnies. And I think a lot of that came in the first half as they really locked it down, created some steals, got some points off of those to get that early margin up there. SLU won the overall turnover battle by 5. They out-rebounded Bonaventure by 5. They wound up giving themselves 8 more field goal attempts than the Bonnies as a result. Julia Martinez had 9 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 steals off the bench, always filling it up, always with the triple nickels. Markavia Shaver, Zach, had the rare trillion for a
Yes.
starter. 11 minutes played and no other statistics registered.
Unbelievable.
11 minutes without anything. I mean, bench players know that you got to foul, you got to make your mark in the stat sheet one way or another. But to go 11 minutes and not get anything, that's kind of crazy. But it actually did kind of matter in this game. 7 bench players got in addition to the starters, with Tillett getting to give a few minutes to some of her non-rotation players. And yes, all of them made their mark in one way or another: rebounds, assists, fouls. They did a little bit here and there to get their name in there, but Shavers didn't. But all in good fun because they beat one of the worst teams in conferences by 18. Next up, they've got a game on Wednesday, the 28th against LaSalle. It's at LaSalle. And then on Saturday, March 2nd against Davidson, which is senior day and the final regular season game. So Zach, as we go into these last 2 games, what are the standings looking like on the women's side?
Not great, Bob. No, they're actually better than the men at this point.
Yeah, they're in the thick of the middle anyway.
They really are. We're not allowed to use thick when talking about sorry, St. Joe. The eye roll was fantastic.
I mean,
Yeah.
just go with it.
St. Joe's and Richmond lead the way 14-2. VCU and George Mason hanging in there with Duquesne at 13-3. Rhode Island 9-7 all alone. Davidson 8-8. Loyola Chicago 8-9. Fordham and St. Louis tied at 7-9. Dayton 5-11. GW and LaSalle 4-12. St. Bonaventure 1-15, and UMass bringing up the rear at 1-16. I can't believe there's a team worse than this Bonaventure team.
Incredible.
Oh, Pete, we're gonna have to strap in, and the folks at home are gonna have to strap in because we're gonna talk about baseball, and we've got a lot of runs to talk about, 104 to be exact.
Yeah, but we're gonna breeze through them pretty quickly because I mean it's just gonna sound like the same thing over and over the way this team scores. 10-2 was the win at Lindenwood on Wednesday the 21st. Lindenwood actually out hit SLU 11-9. SLU just made every hit count. It was 2-2 after three. SLU scored three in the sixth with some classic small ball, bunts, stolen bases, stringing a couple singles together. And then they got two more in the seventh with triples from Patrick Closey and Tyler Fogarty. The final three runs came in the eighth and ninth off RBI doubles from Ben Gallagher and Brendan Stressler. Dawson Smith started and gave up two runs in the first three innings, and Jackson Yarberry pitched four shutout innings of middle relief to get the win. Owen Kelly finished it up with two more scoreless innings. And Zach, that was a nice table setter for their three-game series with Western Illinois down in Millington, Tennessee, which we found out was just a little bit north of Memphis, as it turns out. Last week we said we didn't know where it was, but it was on Friday the 23rd through today, Sunday the 25th, as we record.
Yeah, first game of the series was a 20-6 win versus
Incredible.
Western Illinois, Friday the 23rd. Billikens scored one in the top of the first, added 17 over the next three innings to make a laugher of the first game against Western Illinois, which went 7 innings. It was another 4-homer day for the Billikens. Moore, Sitzman, Fogarty, and Newegg all going yard. 9 different players scored and 9 different players drove in runs. Moore and Sitzman scored 4 times. Fogarty led SLU with 4 RBIs. Jackson Holmes got the start, went 5 innings, got the win with 4 earned runs. 2 more runs scored with Will Bollinger on the mound in the sixth, but were unearned due to a throwing error. Josh Cunningham finished the game with a scoreless inning.
Yeah, and then on Saturday the 24th, they kept it going. 17-4 was this win. They actually trailed 3-1 after 4 innings, and then started to wake up. They got one back in the fifth, went ahead 4-3 in the sixth, and then they broke it open with 4 in the seventh and went crazy with 9 runs in the ninth. 12 different Billikens crossed the plate in this game. Cole Smith led the team with 3 runs. Smith and Drew Winters each had a grand slam in the ninth inning, which is why that was a 9-run inning. And then they each ended up with 5 RBIs overall for the game. Tommy Ray started. He struck out 8. He gave up 3 runs in 3 2/3. But Jack Weber got the win in 3 1/3 scoreless innings of middle relief. Evan Gray and Owen Chaffin each pitched an inning to finish it off. It's Chafin, right?
Yeah.
Okay. He gave up that 4th run, but closed the game out.
Let's talk about that third game, Pete. It was an 8-5 win versus Western Illinois on Sunday, the 25th. So we had a tough time getting anything going at the plate for a while. Trailing 5-1 after 5. They got 2 back in the sixth and took the lead with a Drew Winters grand slam in the eighth and an insurance run in the ninth. Sitzman had an RBI double to get things going in the sixth and scored on a sac fly from Graham Maestros. It was the second straight game with a grand slam from Winters. Charlie Weber he started and gave up 4 runs in 3 1/3 with 5 strikeouts. Jackson Yarberry pitched the next 4 2/3, giving up 1 run on 3 hits. Ethan Bell got the save with a scoreless ninth. So had more runs than hits in all 3 games against Western Illinois. This is the best start in the coaching career of Darren Hendrickson.
It is at 7-0, and it's SLU's best start since 2002, since I was on campus, which is pretty incredible. They have 104 runs, as you said, in those 7 games, which is an average of 14.9 runs per game, and they've given up just 42. 7 players have scored 10 or more runs. Everyone in the starting lineup is batting over 300 and has an OPS of over 1,000 or better. 6 players have 10 or more RBIs. The lowest slugging percentage in the lineup is 500. The lowest on base percentage is 370. And Zach, they've stolen 25 bases on 28 attempts. I think their opponents have stolen 5 bases on 6 attempts all season long. And it's just incredible what this team is doing. I think the stolen bases is kind of getting underrated, honestly, because they're hitting so well, but they are just generating runs out there.
I am going to posit something here, Peter. Um, is this team playing with a chip on their shoulder for how the athletic department has maybe neglected that baseball program?
That is the most Zach Miller storyline possible for this team. I want it to be true, Zach. I want it to be true because I want you to be vindicated for that. I think probably you motivate a team however you can, right? And there have to be some guys on the team going, all right, we're just gonna ball. Like
Yeah,
we're just going all out. And they probably, I trust Hendo has the right mentality for these guys. Like they're just
yeah.
playing their hardest. And man, oh man, are they fun so far.
Yeah, it's really just kind of a bummer that you're not able to really watch a lot of these games.
Yeah.
You wish you could get into a couple of these tournaments where they do stream the games or the multi-team events. Baseball really started the MTE, didn't they? They were the OG at
Th-
this.
They they really are. Yeah, baseball and softball.
The undefeated Billikens come back to the area, not home. They take on SIUE on Tuesday the 27th, and then they host Lemoyne for a 3-game weekend series starting on the 1st through the 3rd. That's Friday through Sunday. All games this year will be day games due to the lights.
Amazing.
Uh,
Just like the Cubs until the late 80s.
Softball continues to play well. I think they went 3-2 in the Hilltopper Classic, hosted by Western Kentucky in Bowling Green. First game, 12-0 win in 5 innings versus Eastern Illinois on Friday the 23rd. Hockman pitched a shutout with 5 walks and 5 strikeouts, giving up just 2 hits. Slew did it by stringing a bunch of singles together, mostly. They scored 4 in the first, 6 in the second, and 2 in the third. Abby Ulsis and Natalie Sullivan each scored 3 runs from the top 2 spots of the lineup. Sullivan also stole 2 bases. Allie Marietta led Slew with 4 RBIs, including a 3-run double. Pete, talk about this 8-inning loss against Western Kentucky.
Yeah, they this was a tough one. This was a heartbreaker. 6-5 in 8 innings against the host team on Friday the 23rd. They trailed 4-0 after 4. They tied it up with a run in the 5th and then 3 more in the 6th. And then the game went to extras after a scoreless 7th. Slew scored on a wild pitch in the top of the 8th, but then Western Kentucky tied it on a bases loaded walk in the bottom of the inning and then walked it off with a single. Lily Strand started. She gave up 4 runs in 4 innings. Isabel Royal pitched the last 3 1/3, and she took the loss. Abby Mallow led Slew in hits, runs, and RBIs with 2 of each of those in 3 at bats. She had a solo shot in the 5th and got the 6th inning going with an RBI single. So solid game for her at the plate. But then, Zach, I'll take this one before giving it to you for the Detroit game.
Well, the
Uh,
the interesting question I had is, it's interesting. We talked about Lily Strand's college debut
yeah,
was such a stellar performance. Seems like she's starting to maybe have those freshman struggles.
she did at this event. Yeah, and we'll get to that in this game right here too. Because they lost in 5 innings, 8-0 against Eastern Illinois on Saturday the 24th. The team that they shut out just the day before, right? And now they turn around and they get one hit by Mackenzie Oslanzi of Eastern Illinois. It seems like she's their ace. It's her second complete game shutout on the year. And yeah, just a one hitter. She was dealing. Meanwhile, they got to Lily Strand early, scoring 6 runs, including a grand slam before she could even get a second out registered. So it was a really tough, jittery start for her in this one after you said like she had such a promising start last week or 2 weeks ago in her debut. Kelsey Etling is the one who had the lone hit in this game that really just served to break up a no-hitter. Otherwise, didn't really get anything else done in this game. But Zach, they turned it around later that day against Detroit.
Yeah, they certainly did. They beat Detroit Mercy in a big way, 17-1 in 5 innings on Saturday the 24th. SLU scored 6 in the first, including home runs from Abby Mallow and Cammie Newbanks. Detroit was never in it. 17 hits on 17 runs. Newbanks and Yulsis had 3 runs apiece. Yulsis also had also led the team with 4 hits. Mallow with 5 RBIs. Hockman got the 5 inning win, striking out 6 and allowing just 1 unearned run. Uh, Pete, do you want to take the 10-7 win or should I?
I'll take it, Zach. This
All
was
right.
over the host, Western Kentucky on Sunday. SLU got out to a 7-2 lead after 2 innings, but the Hilltoppers never really went away. SLU got 1 in the 6th and 2 more in the 7th that ended up sealing it for the 3-run win. Cammie Newbanks, Chloe Ryan, and Kelsey Etling all homered. Ryan's was a 2-run shot, while Newbanks and Etling both had 3-run homers. So that was pretty much all of their offensive output right there. Isabel Royal started. She gave up 5 runs in 3 innings. Taylor Hockman finished the game, giving up 2 runs in the last 4 innings. So Hockman has kind of been, that steady hand of the pitching staff so far that otherwise has a couple freshmen. So I imagine, Zach, we're going to see some great games out of the young pitchers, but we're also going to see some shaky starts as well, like we've seen already. Next up on the softball diamond, March 1st through 3rd, SLU will be at the Austin P tournament, which includes Ohio, Indiana State, and IUPUI, in addition to the host school, down in Clarksville, Tennessee.
Let's talk about A10 championship track and field, Pete. A10 Indoor Champs, 23rd and 24th of February in Virginia Beach. Very nice performance from the men, especially in these A10 championships. But the women finished 10th overall. Emily Nichols, silver in the 400 with a new school record of 55-36. Michaela McDonald won the bronze, 55-39. Samantha Kunza won bronze in the weight throw with a distance of 18.39 meters. The women's 4x400 meter won bronze as well. And when you talk about like finishing 10th overall, that's literally a lot. Almost, there's a lot of that where you're finishing as a team because you don't field that many
Mhm.
that
That's right.
many athletes. The
Yeah.
men finished 4th overall, matching their best finish ever. Evan Brinderman won the triple jump, an A10 championship for Evan Brinderman with a new school record of 15.27 meters. By the way, Pete, I don't understand the triple jump. I
It's
don't understand. It does like who was like, okay, we've got who can jump the farthest, who can jump the highest, who can vault themselves the highest with a pole, who can run, who can jump 3 times the farthest. Who
yeah,
comes up with that idea?
it's really weird. It's a
I
weird
mean,
event.
I'm not hating on it. I'm just
I
saying, like,
know.
I'm trying to understand like how that came into being. It's like
Yeah,
it's kind of like the steeplechase.
right.
Oh
It's
no,
very some of these sports are just like they were dreamt up at the Olympics 120 years ago.
yeah.
And they're just kind of momentum. They just stick around. They're also the kind of sports that nobody is like, that's what I want to do. Like no kids sitting at home watching the Olympics being like, that weird jump, that's the one I want. It's the kind of
Yep.
one where like, hey, so and so's out today. Can you fill in for him? I think you'd be pretty good at this. And then like
Hmm.
4 years later, you're doing it in college.
Yes. Harrison Martinenko took the gold in the mile. A10 championship for Harrison. Time of 4 minutes, 7 seconds, 4:07:28. Uh, he's only about 2 to 3 minutes faster than my mile, Pete.
Minutes?
Yes.
Wow. That's
I
you got some work to do there,
know.
Zach. Come
I'm
on.
gonna go train with Harrison. All right, Harrison, I want to train with you. Let's do it. Will Stewart won bronze in the 200 meter, 21:71. James Baker won the bronze in the heptathlon with a point total of 4,802, which is a school record. The NCAA Indoor Championships will be March 9th through the 10th in Boston. Pete, give us tennis real quick because I am running out of steam.
Yeah, the men won 4-3 at Chicago State on Saturday, the 24th. Chicago State got the doubles point, winning 2 of 3 doubles matches. And then they also won in number 1 and 2 singles, but SLU swept the 3-6 singles spots to claim the overall win with Luca Leonardo, Theo Ortiz, Adam Behun, and Valentin Vasquez all claiming victories. So the Bills moved to 4-1 on the season. Next up, they've got Lindenwood at Lindenwood on the Tuesday, the 27th, and then they'll host Oral Roberts on Friday, March 1st, and Northern Kentucky on Saturday, the 2nd, both at St. Clair Tennis Club in O'Fallon. On the women's side, they beat Northern Iowa 4-0 on Friday, the 23rd. They swept doubles and then won in the number 3, 4, and 5 singles to get the shutout, with the other 3 singles matches going unfinished. SLU actually led in the number 1 and 2 spots when it was called as well. So that was Alashina, Ferreira, and White getting the singles wins. And then 4-3, same score as the men at Chicago State on Saturday. They got the doubles point, and then they split singles with the Bills claiming victories at number 1, Mintasova, number 5, Sandra Ginez, and number 6, which was Emerson White. SLU is now 5-0 on the season for the women's side, which is great. And they'll host Lindenwood on Wednesday, the 28th, and Northern Kentucky on Saturday, March 2nd, with both matches also at St. Clair Tennis Club.
Swimming and diving, the A10 Championships were February 21st through the 24th in Hampton, Virginia at the Aquaplex. The men came in 8th out of 8, and the women finished 11th of 11. The Bills did not have any top 3 finishes. All right.
What does it take, Zach, to get that competitive, or to get the swimming and diving program more competitive?
I have no idea.
I don't know either.
No idea.
It's tough because I think this is the second year in a row where they've finished either at or near the bottom.
Yeah, I think it's a sport to field. Like literally, if there wasn't a pool inside Simon Rec that could host them, we would not have a team. That's my take, because you look at a program like Lindenwood who just dropped swimming and diving because they don't have a pool on campus.
Yeah.
So I don't know that program. Like again, you go back to the conversations I've had with people that swam at SLU is just like Chris May shows up for the first the pictures and everything at the start of the senior night meet and leaves about 30 minutes into it.
Yeah.
They get no love. None. Yeah, that's gonna do it. If you're still with us, holy shit, what are you doing? Yeah, thank you all so much for listening. Seriously. Pete, any last words?
Just the usual.
Go Bills.
Bills.